It's a step-by-step video on how to smoke a brisket for beginners, updated with all of my best beginner brisket tips for 2023, so let's get smoking. Okay, it's the night before you're going to smoke your brisket, let's call it Friday night, so pour yourself a beverage and get ready for step 1, which is trimming. Get yourself a 12 to 15 pound whole packer brisket of the best quality you can afford. Prime or choice will do just fine. The more intramuscular fat, the better. Remove the brisket from the cryovac bag by slicing the bag open any way you like. Use a sharp knife. I like to slice into the bag and through the very tip of the flat because we're going to be removing that last few inches of meat anyway to help the brisket cook more evenly. Then I just pull the brisket out of the cryovac bag, I lay it on the cutting board, and I begin. Now, you'll notice that one side of the brisket has a lot of fat on it. That's what we call the fat cap, and it'll have a flap or mohawk on the highest area of the brisket. We're going to slice that off on an angle and keep slicing towards the thinner end of the brisket, so only a 1/4 inch of fat remains at the thinner end. Now, starting from the thinner end of the brisket, we're going to slice an inch or so strip along the side of the brisket, removing most of that large fat deposit that you can see facing the camera. We can now clearly see two muscle groups of the brisket, which are the point on the left-hand side, also called the fatty side of the brisket. It sits on top of the flat, which we see on the right side of the brisket and running underneath the point to the left side. It's also called the lean side of the brisket. Both muscles are separated by this large seam fat, which starts out very thick on the side of the brisket facing the camera, and it kind of tapers off and thins out towards the other side. We're going to try to carve down as much of that thick seam fat as possible. Otherwise, our brisket slices from the point side of the brisket that you see facing you will have a huge chunk of fat in the middle of them. So now we slice down the mohawk even more on an angle to remove more of that seam fat and give the brisket its rounded shape. Now, moving on to the tip of the point, I'm rounding out any rough edges and slicing down the fat to around a 1/4 inch thickness. Then I'm cutting a strip off the other side of the brisket so we can see the meat underneath it. Moving on to the very top of the fat cap, this is where the precision work kind of comes into play. Start by slicing it down layer by layer until it's only about a 1/4 inch thick. Now, you may think it's weird to carve off all of this fat that you paid good money for, but a thinner fat cap is a good thing because it's going to render down much more easily and create a thin layer of caramelly, gooey, bacony fat on each slice. If that fat cap is too thick, it won't render and you'll get kind of a thick layer of rubbery fat that your guests may actually want to peel off before eating the slice of brisket. We definitely don't want that. Now, as you're trimming the fat cap, you'll probably cut too deep in some areas and scalp the brisket or expose the meat under the fat cap. There may already be several scalps from the butcher that you can't do anything about, and you may make some of your own, but in general, we want to minimize those scalps because it provides an avenue and an area for moisture to pool on top of the brisket and mess up the bark on that spot. It also results in slices that don't have a continuous layer of rendered fat. That being said, I've trimmed hundreds of briskets and I still scalp them all the time. Just go slow, make multiple long, shallow slices using as much of your knife as possible on each stroke. Keep that knife sharp and press into the fat as you slice to get an idea of how thick it is in the remaining areas. If there's a thick layer that still needs trimming, the fat will often be hard when you press into it, and if it's a perfect 1/4 inch thick, it'll often be soft and pliable because the meat is right underneath it. And often if the fat is super thin, you'll be able to actually see a reddish tinge through the fat so that you know it's pretty thin in that area and you want to stop cutting. Now, moving on to the tip of the flat muscle of the brisket, we want to slice a few inches off in a crescent moon shape. This will shave off the thinnest part of the flat so the brisket cooks more evenly, and it will also prevent the flat from curling up and creating an area for moisture to pool and mess up your bark. Next, flip the brisket over and you'll see the other side of the seam fat separating the point and the flat muscles. Slice that seam fat down as much as possible until it's kind of flush with the meat, but don't gouge into it too much. Now trim off any brown bits on the edges of the brisket and move over to the bottom of the flat where you see a layer of transparent silver skin and fat. Remove most of that layer, being careful to trim off the silver skin while removing as little meat as possible. Now you're done trimming and you can marvel at your beautiful meat sculpture. It really is a work of art and you should be proud of yourself. Now you'll notice that we've trimmed off a lot of fat that, again, you paid good money for. Do we just throw it in the garbage? No, we're gonna save that and render it down into beef tallow. So step 2 is to render down your tallow. The best way I've found to produce the cleanest tasting pure tallow is to mince up the fat as small as possible, or if you have a meat grinder, you can grind it in your meat grinder, then render it in a pot on the stove with 8 cups of water added. We're going to boil that for at least 2 hours, then we're going to pop it in the fridge until a hard disc of fat solidifies on top of the water. We'll pop that disc out and then melt it down and put it in a jar. Now we have really pure, great tasting beef tallow. We're gonna use that later on in our brisket cook to add more juiciness and flavor to our brisket. Moving on to step 3, rubbing your brisket. I'm spritzing the bottom of the brisket to help the rub stick, and then I'm using a shaker bottle to apply the rub to the bottom of the brisket. Now I'm coating all of the sides, and finally I'm flipping the brisket over, giving it another spritz of water and applying the rub to the top. I'm using my own blend of brisket rub for this video. You can find out where to buy it in the description section below. It has a unique blend of pepper, sumac, different sizes of salt granules, and other ingredients to really give your brisket a super dark and amazing flavor. But you can also use any brisket rub that you have on hand. You can even make your own. The one that I like making at home the best is a 1/4 cup of coarse ground pepper, 1/4 cup of kosher salt, and 2 tablespoons of Lowry's seasoned salt. Now this brisket's going to sit out for at least 30 minutes before it goes on the smoker to soak up the rub, but ideally you would rub it the night before and leave it in the fridge to dry brine overnight. That way you just have to wake up in the morning and throw it on the smoker. Guys, before we smoke this brisket, I'd like to thank ZBiotics for sponsoring this video. We all have busy lives these days and can't afford to waste a day stuck on the couch because of a few drinks the night before. ZBiotics is the answer we've all been looking for. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work kind of like your liver, but in your gut where you need it the most. Just remember to drink ZBiotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Personally, whenever I take a ZBiotics, I just feel more motivated the next day and more ready to tackle the day, and that means I know I can have a few drinks and still get everything I need to get done the next day. So order ZBiotics now for your summertime barbecues, weddings, and vacations. Go to zbiotics.com/smoketrailsbbq or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use Smoke Trails BBQ at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. ZBiotics is also backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/smoketrailsbbq and use the code SMOKETRAILSBBQ at checkout for 15% off. Also, if you want a chance to win a free 12-pack of ZBiotics, you can sign up in the description section below for a chance to win. The contest runs for the next 2 weeks after the posting date of this video, and it's open to residents of the US only. So sign up today for your chance to win. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this video. Okay, it's the next day, so it's time for step 4, smoking your brisket. So let's talk about time and temperature. This is just a quick overview so you know what you're getting into. I'll cover this in more detail later in the video, but in general, a brisket cook will take around 12 hours of active smoking time plus 2 hours resting, so 14 hours total. For that first 4 hours, we're gonna run the smoker anywhere from 225 to 250 until the brisket starts sweating out moisture and it's better able to protect itself from the high heat, which will ramp up to in the second phase of the brisket cook for the next 8 hours. After that first 4 hour mark, we're going to ramp up temperatures to between 275 to 300. Again, the brisket is sweating out a lot of moisture. It's better able to protect itself from drying out, so we're ramping up the temperatures, and that increased temperature is also going to help the brisket cook faster, power through the stall, and it's going to help the brisket fat render on the top of the fat cap. So just so you know what you're getting into, it's a 14-hour cook. That means getting up at around 4 a.m. in the morning, which is not ideal, but I'd highly recommend it if it's your first brisket to experience this traditional way of cooking brisket. Getting up in the morning, smoking the brisket all day, resting it, slicing it, and then serving it fresh that same day. That way you'll get a really good idea of what the basic method for cooking a brisket is, and you can get into more advanced methods like hot holding or refrigerating and then reheating your brisket, or hot and fast cooking on your next brisket cook. I have a lot of videos that I'll link in the description section below if you want to look into any more of those advanced topics. But for your first brisket, I really recommend just doing it all on the same day. Now, we're still on step 4, smoking. So I'm putting my brisket on the smoker and maintaining temperatures at 250 for the next 4 hours of the cook. On an offset smoker like this one here, the thicker point end of the brisket should be facing the firebox because it's better able to handle the heat, and you should have a large water pan next to the firebox with a few inches of gap between the water pan and the firebox opening. This will allow the indirect convective hot air up and over the brisket, as well as some hot air underneath the brisket to cook it more evenly, and the water pan will blunt the radiant heat from the firebox that tends to dry out and burn meat. Now, in the firebox, I have a small grate on the left side with a steel pan full of water directly over the fire. This water pan is going to absorb the radiant heat of the fire. It's going to help maintain a lower temperature, which is especially important in small offsets that tend to run hot, and also as the water boils, it's going to add humidity to the cook chamber. Now, if you're cooking on a pellet grill, you'll want to place the brisket on the second upper rack with a very large water pan below it, again to block that radiant heat. And it's the same concept on pretty much any other kind of smoker, whether it's a drum smoker, Weber Smoky Mountain, Kamado, or center box smoker. Get that water pan between the meat and the heat to prevent your brisket from getting dry, burnt, and overcooked. Now, every 30 minutes to an hour during the first 4 hours of the cook, I'm opening the smoker lid and I'm spritzing any dry areas of the brisket. If the bark looks bone dry in certain areas, then spritz it. It shouldn't be soaked, but we want the meat to look moist and tacky so that smoke clings to it more easily. Anecdotally, a lot of pitmasters say that spritzing increases the juiciness of the brisket. I haven't found any experiments or scientific articles or any other empirical evidence, including my own experiments, to corroborate that, but that's what a lot of people say, and it really can't hurt. The one thing we do know with 100% empirical certainty is that spritzing the meat does help the smoke attach and adhere to the surface better, so we get a darker bark and more smoke flavor. That is backed up by science and experiments from multiple different sources. Also, at this point, I'm foiling off the thinner edge of the flat as well as the protruding part of the point to help it from drying out. This just helps those edges from getting dry, and it helps the brisket cook more evenly to some extent. Now, at the 4-hour mark, your brisket should look something like this if you're using an offset smoker or charcoal or wood burning smoker, possibly less dark and more reddish in coloring if you're using a pellet grill, and it should be sweating out its own moisture now. This is a clear sign of evaporative cooling, so we now want to ramp up temperatures, otherwise the brisket will just stall out and take forever to cook. A higher temperature is also necessary to properly render the fat cap, so I'm bumping the temperatures up to between 275 to 300 for the remaining 8 hours of the cook. Now, the next step is to endure some sort of hardship that will inevitably happen in the middle of your cook. In my case, there's a thunderstorm happening and my fire is about to die, so I'll have to load it all up, but you just gotta keep going. Hi-ho, brisket, away! Woo! Hopefully you overcame your unexpected hardship that inevitably happens and threatens to ruin your brisket cook, and then it's time for step 6, which is wrapping your brisket. At around the 10-hour mark, your brisket should look very dark, less moisture pooling on the brisket, and it will be probing at around 180 degrees internal. So now I'm removing the brisket from the smoker and I'm placing it down on a sheet of butcher paper. I'm placing some chunks of beef tallow that we made earlier in this video on the butcher paper, and I'm also adding some clarified butter, also called ghee. You can also just use regular butter or skip it entirely and use tallow. It's really up to you. The important thing is there's liquid fat in the wrap. Now I'm wrapping up the brisket and then it's going back on the smoker for the remaining 2 or so hours of the cook. Step 7, finishing. Now it's time to finish our brisket, and this is probably the hardest part. A perfect brisket is tender enough so that you can pull apart the slices with a little bit of resistance and they're nice and juicy. If it's overcooked, the brisket will be really dry and the slices will just kind of crumble apart in your hands. So to get to that perfect doneness, we need to perform 3 tests on the brisket. The first test is the temperature test. The brisket should probe between 200 and 205 internal. Usually 203 degrees is a good internal temperature to shoot for. Second, the brisket should be probe tender. That means when you probe into it, there's very little resistance and it feels buttery and tender. The probe shouldn't tug when you pull it out. A trick to better knowing when it's probe tender is to start checking for probe tenderness about an hour after wrapping, and then every 30 minutes after that. An hour after wrapping, it'll probably still be pretty tough, and then you can probe into it every 30 minutes after that, and eventually you'll feel when the muscle fibers kind of give up and it gets noticeably more tender. That is probe tenderness. And the final test is to pick up the brisket with cotton gloves under nitrile gloves and poke your fingers up into the underside of the brisket and kind of squeeze the brisket together. It should feel very soft and flexible like Jell-O. Once it meets all those tests, then your brisket is done. Step 8 is resting your brisket. After your brisket is done, rest it on the counter for at least 2 hours until it comes down in temperature to around 140 degrees internal. The brisket absolutely needs this resting time to redistribute moisture within the brisket, reabsorb moisture that's still within the butcher paper, and to finish rendering the intramuscular collagen in the brisket. If you're still a long ways from dinner, let's say you're 4 or 5 hours from dinner, you can put it in a cooler. Just make sure that when you do put it in the cooler, you've rested it on the counter for at least an hour to bring it down in temperature a little bit, maybe to 170, as high as 180, so that the brisket isn't going to overcook from carryover cooking, because it could continue to cook at 200 plus degrees for quite a long time and overcook the brisket. Step 9 is slicing. Unwrap the brisket and pour the juices and tallow on top of the brisket and all over the cutting board. You can and should do this in front of your family and guests because it's very impressive. Now, slice the brisket in half, stack the two halves, and squeeze them together while showing your family and guests. You gotta have a little bit of showmanship. You just spent a long time cooking this brisket, so it's worth it to show your family all of that work. Now, coat the exposed meat with the board tallow so the meat doesn't oxidize. If any slices are exposed directly to the air without being coated in fat, they are going to oxidize and appear dry. Even though they won't be actually dry, there'll be this sheen of what looks like dryness on them. That's the oxidization, and people will think that they look dry. So make sure you're constantly coating any slices or exposed meat with fat, either from the board or the fat from your hands, and that's gonna make your brisket look and taste better and more juicy. Next, take the fatty point side of the brisket and slice off one side of it. Then cube up that barky slice and leave the chunks to the side. Those are your burnt ends. Now continue to make 1/4-inch slices until you reach the other side of the brisket. Take the last barky edge slice and cube that into more burnt ends. Now, moving on to the thinner, flat, or lean side of the brisket, start by making 1/4-inch slices all the way along the brisket until you reach the very tip of the brisket. Depending on how dry the tip is, you may decide to just serve that up to your family, but more often than not, it's better to just take the very tip of the flat and just hide it away. Use it for tacos or chili at a later date. It's always going to be drier than the rest of the brisket. You just can't avoid that. Now, after you've nailed this beginner brisket recipe on your first brisket, check out my other videos which have more advanced brisket methods. My favorite one is the 190 and hold brisket method, which involves taking your brisket to around 190 degrees Fahrenheit and then holding it for 18 hours in your oven or another holding device. It just creates an amazing flavor experience. It's beefy, it's juicy, it's just amazing. I will see you in the next video, guys, and until then, happy smoking.